Okay, the first one we're going to look at is question 1f. I've chosen this one deliberately, finding the derivative, so I'm just going to call it f of x because I like to have notation. Now, I'm going to rearrange it. When you have cos squared x minus 3, the reason they do that is because if they had first put the squared next to the bracket, you would actually think it's the angle squared. In actual fact, that squared refers to the whole angle as such. So when I find the derivative, what I'm actually doing is using the chain rule to say bring the power in front, which is 2, subtract 1 from the power, which is 1, and I have cos of x minus pi on 3, so inside the bracket stays the same, but now I've got to multiply by the derivative of inside the bracket. And the derivative of cos is, of course, negative sine, and the derivative of x minus 3 is still x minus pi on 3 is itself. So there's no derivative. It's like a derivative of 1. So I'd put a 1 in front if I wanted to, but the fact that it's a 1, I won't bother. And so now I end up with 2, and I'm making it negative 2 cos of x minus pi on 3, because it's the power of 1, sine x minus pi on 3. And that's its derivative. I didn't bother with the earlier ones because they should be a bit easier, but you realize what we're doing is a chain rule within a chain rule. And I chose 2D deliberately for the same reason, for you to realize that when I do this, I'm doing y equals cos of 2x all squared, and it's to find the gradient at x equals pi on 4. So first thing I need to do is find the gradient, bring the power down in front, inside the bracket stay the same, subtract 1 from the power to make it a 1. Now I times it by the derivative of inside the power. The derivative of cos 2x is negative sine 2x times by the derivative of the 2x, which is 2. So I end up with a 2 times the 2 times the negative gives me negative 4 sine 2x, and because cos 2x is to the power of 1, we no longer need those brackets. Now that's the derivative, but we're told to find out what's its value when x equals 4. So I'm going to substitute in negative 4 sine of 2 pi over 4 times cos of 2 pi over 4. And we simplify that, it's negative 4 sine of pi over 2 and cos of pi over 2. Now you can use your calculator, and I have no problem with you using your calculator. However, if you remember your trig, you remember that sine starts at 0 and goes up. So at pi on 2, sine pi on 2 is actually 1. Now I've got to think what happens at cos. Cos pi on 2 is actually 0. So I end up with negative 4 times 1 times 0, which actually gives us a value of 0. So the derivative at x equals pi and 4 of cos squared 2x is 0. As there's only two parts in question 3, I've just made up another one, and it's finding the derivative. So f of x equals this. The derivative, these are actually easier than question 2 in my opinion. The derivative of cos is sine, so it still says sine of 3x, but I need to multiply the derivative of 3x, which is 3 times the 4, to get 12 sine 2x. But the derivative of cos is negative. Now I have over here the derivative of sine x is simply cos x, so it's minus 5 cos x. And that's question 3. Okay.